So our application needs to store user and role details in some persistent data store. So we are going to use the Northwind database and simply add the identity tables to it. So we are going to use a console for Package Manager console. If you don't see it, it's in Tools, then NuGet Package Manager and Package Manager console. And we can use some command line. First, we're going to install the Entity Framework tool. And we can go to NuGet Package Manager and do it from there, or we can use a command line, which is .NET, then tool, then install, --global, and then space .NET-EF. So this command installs the .NET Entity Framework tool on the machine. Now in my case, when I press enter, it tells me that it's already installed because I have it installed from some previous exercises that I did. But in your machine, if you didn't have it installed, then just write this command, run it, and it will install it for you. Next, we need to install the Entity Framework Designer. I'm gonna install that actually from the NuGet Package Manager for the solutions. Let me just move this down so you can see it better. I'll just type design and hopefully it will find what I'm looking for. And it did, Microsoft Entity Framework Core.design. And this is required in our application in order to be working with those tools. So I'm going to install the same version that I have for the Entity Framework Core. Just like before, I'm not gonna use the latest because my Framework Core is 3.1.7. So make sure that you install the same version that you use for Entity Framework Core package. I'll click install, OK, and accept. And everything was installed correctly. Alright, so let's go back to our package manager and let's just use the command line again. So I'll go to Package Manager console. And now we are going to do the migration. And the migration command line is .NET Entity Framework, so EF, migrations, and it's migrations, plural, not a singular, and then add, and then we're adding specific migration, that is the identity migration. And we have two DB contexts, so we have to specify which one we want to use, because if we don't, the framework wouldn't know which one to use. And we are installing the identity, so we want to use the context app identity DB context. Now when I press enter, in some cases it may install, in some not. For example, in mine it says that project was not found. Sometimes when you just click on the project and run the command, it would install it, but in my case it still didn't. It's telling me that it needs the project directory. It doesn't know where it is. So to do that, it's very simple. I'm going to right click the Employee Manager project. I don't know if you can see it, but here is copy full path. So I'm just gonna click that and it copied the full path in a clipboard. So I'm going to run the same command again, and you don't have to always type it. You can just use the arrows up and down to basically browse between the latest commands that you used. So I'm using the same command and then -- project, and I will then Control V, so I will paste the path of my project to it. So this is the whole command that I'm going to use. I'm installing identity migration using the app identity DB context, and the project is in this path. I'll press enter, and you can see everything succeeded. Now, if in your case it didn't succeed, like before, I actually got still an error telling me to install the package for the Framework Core design, which we already installed. If that happens to you, all you have to do is to build the project. Just go to build and click build solution. Then come back to the manager console and run the command for the migration again, and that will work just fine, because without the build, it doesn't know that the package was already installed. Alright, so this installed everything we need. Let's have a look into the migration. We have now migrations folder, and you can see now we have the identity migration that's using the app identity DB context. And finally, what we have to do is to install that, meaning to update the database itself. So in the console, I'm going to run another command, and this is the .NET Entity Framework, so EF, and then database space, and then update. And after that, I again need to specify what context I'm using. So this is the context space app identity DB context. And this will install those tables for identity into our Northwind database. So let's run this. And once again, it's asking for the project. So just like before, I'm going to right-click Employee Manager, copy full path. Then I'll come back to the console, get the command back up, then -- project, space, and paste the path to the project. And now I'll press enter. And everything is done, as you can see. So let's have a look in our database. I'll go to the Object Explorer for SQL Server, into the databases, Northwind, tables, and you can see now we have edit tables for the ASP.NET roles, and ASP.NET users, as well as some other identity tables that were added for us. When I right-click ASP.NET users and view data, you can see we don't have any users just yet. The same with the roles. If I click view data, it's all empty. But we are going to simply create our own roles as well as our own users. Alright, so now we have identity installed, the database has been updated, so now we can start working on coding the actual functionality for our identity to log in, log out, and register users.